Welcome in, welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. This is our Week 9 review show, and if you're coming back, appreciate you, love the support, big time appreciated, keep it coming. If this is your first time with me on the Black and Gold vlog, here we celebrate, discuss, and honor all things college football, but with a special emphasis on our black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. As I stated, it was Rivalry Week over the weekend. This is the Week 9 review show. It's a Monday morning, early afternoon, depending on where you are in this great nation or across the globe. Before I continue, I would like to once again thank you for being here. Appreciate your support, your viewership, and I would always recommend and please ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe. Let's keep this rolling. Let's get the word out there to all black and gold fans, but to all and every single college football fan across this great nation. So Rivalry Week, woo! In the spirit of Halloween, and I'd like to take this opportunity to say I hope you all had a happy and safe Halloween. Over Rivalry Week, there was a lot of tricks, a lot of treats. Some performances on the gridiron were stuff of nightmare, and we'll get to those here in a little bit. It was an excellent weekend overall. Both our black and gold squads were in action over the weekend, but we definitely had some mixed results. I'll get to those games here shortly, so tune in for that. What I like to do, I have several things to present and share with you today. So let's go ahead and get into it. Here is Week 9's review episode. So a couple side notes here before I get on to the first segment. I'd like to just summarize and say once again, this season, unlike any, continues. This is the 6th straight week that we saw a top 10 opponent fall to an unranked team. And unfortunately, for the second time during that span, it happened to be our Iowa Hawkeyes. As I stated, I'll get to that game here shortly, a little bit of a recap on that one. And there were 6 more losses, not including the 3 ranked matchups that we had. I'm not going to, technically there were 9, but I'm going to say 6. There were 6 more losses by ranked opponents against unranked opponents. So this continues to go on. It is survival of the fittest. This is absolutely coming down to a war of attrition. Who is going to be left? And that's even bigger because we are on the eve of the first playoff rankings, which are unveiled tomorrow evening. So today I'm going to kind of change format moving forward. Normally during my review shows, I give you the updated AP poll. From this point forward, the AP poll does not matter. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and give you my forecast for what the top 10 I believe is going to be in those playoff rankings revealed tomorrow. And then during the midweek show, which usually comes out every Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, I'll share with you the updated playoff rankings. So I am going to tweak things just a little bit because I have to and because I can. That's the way it is. So let's go ahead. My first segment is I'm going to revisit some of the key matchups that I shared with you during last week's Week 9 preview show. I want to start with number 1 Georgia versus Florida and their annual edition of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party in Jacksonville. This was a complete dominant win by the Georgia Bulldogs. Definitely anticipate they're going to be the number 1 ranked team tomorrow with those playoff rankings when they get unveiled. Wow, it was an absolute big-time victory, 34-7. The Georgia D is now giving up 6.8 points per game. That is an absolutely unreal stat. But then again, we shouldn't be that surprised. This is an NFL caliber front 7 that Georgia has. And just wrap your head around this. I found this online at Stats, that the defensive unit for Georgia themselves, just the defensive side of the ball, they have 9 current 5-stars on roster. I mean, some teams would be happy to have 1 or 2 total throughout their entire team, but they have 9 just on the defensive side of the ball. Absolute amazing stat. Shows just how well they're recruiting there at Georgia, but also the recruiting is definitely paying dividends through how they are performing on the field there for the Bulldog defense. And also, side note, Florida is now 500. They're 4-4. Talk about a big-time disappointing year there at Florida, but I was one of those who believed that they were set for a little bit of a down season. If you recall, I did forecast during the Crystal Ball Predictions episode earlier in the year that Florida would start the year ranked, which they were, but finish unranked. But I didn't think it was going to get to 4 or potentially another loss to get to 7-5 or 8-4. We'll have to wait and see how the rest of the season plays out there in Gainesville. But definitely, the coach definitely on the hot seat there. Dan Mullen facing a little bit of heat from Florida fans. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out moving into the offseason. Next matchup was number 20 Penn State at number 5 Ohio State. The first big-time matchup of the day, actually was the second matchup of the day in the Big Ten East, which is going to be like musical chairs as far as the contenders are all starting to play each other now. Schedule was absolutely back-heavy at the end of the season. This game turned out it was highly contested. I mean, and I definitely predicted it was going to be that. Ohio State was an 18.5-point favorite at home. Granted, Penn State was coming off back-to-back losses. The first against our Hawkeyes, the second 2 weeks ago, and 9 overtimes at home against lonely Illinois. But I definitely believe Penn State would come out with a lot of pride, look inward, and play the Buckeyes tough in Columbus, and they absolutely did. So with their backs against the wall, they absolutely answered the bell. For most of this game, it was only a 1-possession game back and forth. I was very impressed with how Penn State responded with all the adversity this past week. But ultimately, Ohio State did pull away a little bit late in the fourth quarter and scored a 33-24 victory over the Nittany Lions. Ohio State definitely has kind of looking like late season form on offense. Statistically, they are the number 1 best offense in the nation. And that is a scary thing. But I don't quite know if they have fixed all of their defensive woes. Early in the season, we saw this team, big-time issues on the defensive side of the ball, but I don't quite know if they have fixed all of those yet. Are they still vulnerable? I believe so, but it's going to be tough to outscore those guys. So that's where we are now. 3 straight losses for Penn State. At this point, their playoff hopes, Big Ten East title hopes, absolutely done. We'll see how they play out the rest of the season. Next game was Florida State at Clemson, which is usually a marquee rivalry game within the ACC, but both of these programs have fallen on hard time this season. This was all about pride and bragging rights. And late in the game, Clemson found a way to win late, or was it more a case of Florida State found a way to lose late? I'll let you decide if you watched the game. It was kind of a toss-up. But Clemson did end up pulling it out, 30-20, which that is the most points this Clemson offense has scored all season in a single game. So I'm not saying they're world beaters. Clemson's not back, but maybe they've started to turn the corner a little bit as they sit there at 5-3 with an overall record. Florida State came out, punching. Clemson got punched in the mouth, but they did respond. Florida State, they started off terribly at 0-4, but they did win 4 games in a row up to this game. So maybe Florida State is also playing a little bit better under Coach Norvell down there at Florida State in Tallahassee. Next game was big SEC tilt. It was number 10 Ole Miss at number 18 Auburn. Auburn and QB Bo Nix scored a huge win, 31-20 over the Rebels. And Heisman Trophy potential finalist Matt Corral. Was a fun game to watch. I mean, Bo Nix does Bo Nix things, got it done. And moving forward for Auburn, everything is absolutely in front of them. They now control their own destiny in the SEC West. This week they have a tough game at Texas A&M down at College Station. I'll talk more about that game during the Week 10 preview show late in the week. But last game of the season, and it's huge for Auburn because they host Alabama in this year's edition of the Iron Bowl. So stay tuned. So big time win for Auburn. And this loss by Ole Miss is definitely going to potentially hurt Matt Corral's Heisman chances. I'll get to that here a little bit when I give you my updated Heisman Trophy standings. Next game was number 19 SMU at Houston. Definitely the most entertaining game of the week, and I told you this was my non-Power 5 spotlight game, and it did not disappoint. What a game that we witnessed in a shootout of two high-powered offenses deep in the heart of Texas. On that night, Houston beat Dallas. The Cougars take down the Mustangs 44-37 in a dramatic Hollywood-style victory. I mean, it was full of surprises. And what happened was this game was tied 37-37, with 30 seconds to go. And what Houston did, they returned the kickoff 100 yards with under 30 seconds left. That was the game winner. That's what it came down to. What a game. What a big game and a big win for Houston, who's now 7-1, but now have won 7 straight games after their opening week loss against Texas Tech. And unfortunately, SMU no longer undefeated, but still in the midst of having a great season. This is going to have big ramifications down the line within the American Athletic, as Cincinnati is still trying to crash the playoff party as a non-Power 5 team. They definitely needed someone to step up and give them some good competition. So SMU is still there, and Cincinnati does play them later in the season, but they could potentially meet now a ranked Houston team. They don't play in the regular season during the AAC conference title game. I'll have to wait and see. So this is good for the profile for Cincinnati. So we'll see how it plays out in the American Athletic. And the last one, the big one, the battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy, the state of Michigan. Number 6 Michigan at number 8 Michigan State. And little brother wins the day during this matchup, 37-33. And they keep the Paul Bunyan Trophy in an epic matchup of these longtime intra-state rivals. I mean, what a game. Down 30-14, midway through the third quarter. Michigan's up big. It looked like Michigan State was going to come out on the losing end. Michigan maybe being back, but they stormed back. I mean, Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III literally put the team on his back and carried them to that 37-33 victory. And as Gus Johnson exclaimed, I love watching Gus, probably my favorite commentator, color guy. He said, "New York, I'll be seeing you soon." I've said the last couple weeks, this guy, Kenneth Walker III, deserves some Heisman Trophy love. He has absolutely punched his ticket. He is going to be in New York, as Gus Johnson said. So huge victory for Michigan State. Kind of cements what's going on there, the turnaround under Coach Mel Tucker. And now you're going to have the same old questions and doubters about Jim Harbaugh. Hey, he can feast on teams that Michigan should beat, but can't get over the hump against our rivals. Now they're 2-9 on the road under Jim Harbaugh against ranked opponents on the road. Same old questions and doubts are now starting to matriculate about Harbaugh in Michigan. Is this going to officially start the beginning of the end for the Hawkeyes in Ann Arbor? We'll have to wait and see. As I always do, with the action that transpired, I always like to give you the Frank the Tanks Week 9 streakers. We have certain teams, coaches, players that saw streaks continue or end based on victory or defeat. Let's start off with the streaks that continued. Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker for our Missouri Tigers. He was 3 for 3 against Vanderbilt. He has now converted 19 straight field goals. And for his career, he is 63 for 63 with extra point attempts. Well done, Harrison. Vanderbilt, unfortunately, with the loss against Missouri, and I'll give you more analysis of the Missouri game here shortly. Stay tuned. Vanderbilt, with the loss to Missouri, they now have lost 18 straight SEC conference games. Yuck. I mean, hard times there in Nashville. Keep your heads up. It was a good game. Definitely, you're going to be getting over the hump soon, Vanderbilt. Just hang in there. Keep playing hard. Hopefully Clark Lee can turn them around. I think he will. Oklahoma. Oklahoma's win over Texas Tech. They now have won 17 straight games, which is the longest current streak at the FBS football level. Well done, Oklahoma. Breece Hall, the Iowa State running back, who, if you recall, he was my preseason pick to win the Heisman Trophy. A little bit off on that one because Iowa State has really underperformed this season. But Breece Hall, he did record a rushing touchdown over the weekend at West Virginia, and in doing so, he now has rushed for a touchdown in 20 straight games. Well done, Breece Hall. Clemson, big-time rivalry win over Florida State at home. With their home victory over Florida State, Clemson has now won 32 straight games at home. Well done there at Death Valley for Clemson. Ryan Day, the Ohio State coach, with the victory over Penn State, he is now a perfect 30-0 against Big Ten opponents and foes. Undefeated, incredible mark there for Ryan Day. People said when he took over for Urban Meyer, the legend, they would fall on hard times. He wouldn't be able to recruit at that level or get it done. It's at the same level, if not actually increased it. And I've said this before. Granted, some of you are going to blow up the comments with this. Feel free. I'm not saying Coach Ryan Day is better than Urban Meyer. I mean, he's got 3 national titles. But at this point, Ryan Day hasn't had the big letdown loss that Ohio State had under Urban Meyer against Purdue, against my Hawkeyes, when they put up a 55 spot on them in Iowa City in 2017. So Ryan Day may overall be a better coach than Urban Meyer. He definitely seems like he can scheme and make better in-game adjustments. I'm just saying. Agree, disagree, let me know in comments, and I'll get to those at some point. Hopefully later this week I will. So well done, Ryan Day. Wake Forest absolutely blew the top off their rival, the Duke Blue Devils. Now they're 8-0 undefeated, and that's 8-0 for the first time since, well, never. This is their first ever 8-0 start in Wake Forest Demon Deacon football history. Well done, Wake Forest. Keep going. And the last streak that continued, and this one is kind of streak/trend, but until it ends, I'm going to keep saying it. Scott Frost, the Nebraska head coach, definitely on the hot seat. I believe his time in Lincoln is over. With a 28-23 loss at home against Purdue, Nebraska is now 5-18 in one-possession games under Scott Frost at the helm of Nebraska. I mean, just an awful stat as a head coach. If your team has that sort of disparity, 5 wins to 18 losses in one-possession games, sometimes you can say it was just bad luck, how the ball bounced. Those things happen. A bad penalty, a bad turnover, climate issues, rain, snow, wind, I get that. But when it's 5-18, the majority of it is on coaching staff. Just not good for Scott Frost. Now some streaks that ended from rivalry week, week 9. Missouri, with their win over Vanderbilt, they ended their 5-game SEC losing streak. Well done, Tigers. Now on the flip side, our Hawkeyes, With this 27-7 loss to Wisconsin, their defensive streak of allowing opponents 24 points or less ends at 29 straight games. Unfortunate, but it was going to happen at some point. Well done, Iowa defense. That's the better part of 3 years plus. But I just didn't see this streak happening against a Wisconsin team. I didn't think they were going to get to 20, 25 points or more. This is the most unlikely of teams that this streak ended against, but I'll give you more details of why it happened here shortly. And non-Power 5 undefeated teams. Unfortunately, the undefeated seasons for these non-Power 5 darlings are over. I already told you SMU losing to Houston, but also Fresno State went to San Diego State, knocked off the Aztecs, who were undefeated. And 1 week late, my apologies. 2 weeks ago, undefeated Coastal Carolina lost at Appalachian State. So those 3 non-Power 5 darlings who were undefeated now join the ranks of teams with at least 1 loss. But still, well done. Great showing for the non-Power 5 more than halfway through this season. So well done. Next thing I want to get to, as I've started doing, is my big men on campus. Those performances by individuals or units or teams or coaches who stood out. First one is Clayton Tune, the Houston quarterback. In their win over SMU, he was 27 of 37 for 412 yards, 4 touchdowns, but 0 interceptions in that upset win. Well done, Clayton Tune. Will Rogers, the quarterback who never met a man he didn't like. The Mississippi State quarterback was 36 of 39. You talk about accuracy. He was 36 of 39 for 344 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions in the Bulldogs' big upset win over number 12 Kentucky. Well done, Will Rogers. Next one is Jalen Graham, the Purdue linebacker, my defensive big man on campus this week. He grabbed 2 clutch interceptions in the Boilermakers' big road win at Nebraska, and he returned 1 of those for a pick 6, which ended up being the difference. Well done, Jalen Graham. Next one is probably the biggest moment of rivalry weekend was Marcus Jones. He is the individual for Houston who returned the 100-yard kickoff, which led to their big-time victory over SMU, 44-37. I mean, what a huge moment, big-time moment, probably the moment of the year, one of so far in college football, Marcus Jones's kickoff return. And the last big man on campus that we saw, my man, Kenneth Walker III, the Michigan State running back. I already mentioned how he put Sparty on his back, carried them to victory over Michigan. He ended up rushing for 197 yards on 23 attempts and tallied 5 touchdowns in that upset win over number 6 Michigan. Well done, Kenneth Walker, and to all the big men on campus for Week 9, Rivalry Week. Next thing I like to share with you, and usually I do this during the midweek show, but since I am going to tweak it and then share with you on that day the updated or initial playoff rankings, usually the midweek show I share with you the Heisman Race, where I think they are, who's in, who's out, who's my front runner. I'm going to go ahead and do that now with you moving forward during the review shows. So here's my updated Heisman Trophy race. Right now I have 4 individuals who will be in New York, with 1 who's kind of still a little bit on the outside looking in. Right now, my front runner after that performance against Michigan, I've got to say, to me, it's Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III. And hopefully that comes to fruition, because I did pick Breece Hall to win the Heisman. And I also predicted that this would be the second year in a row that a non-quarterback would win the Heisman Trophy. So go, Kenneth. Make it come to fruition. Also have Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. I'll have Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud and Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral. Those are my 4 Heisman Trophy finalists as of now at the end of Week 9. And the next one in line who could still potentially join the race is Ohio State wide receiver Chris Olave. So that's how I have where the Heisman Trophy is stacked up. Let me know what you think. If there's somebody that I left out, you agree, disagree, feel free, comment, let me know. And once again, thank you for your time, your support. I'd like to remind you, I always ask for shares, likes, comments, subscribes. Hit me up. Let's get it out there. Smash that subscribe button. Now, next thing I would like to do, and I do enjoy doing this, hopefully I'm a little bit right, but not very wrong, is I'm going to put on my prognosticator hat. I'm going to forecast, look into my crystal ball, wax poetic, because what I'm going to do, I am going to give you my projected top 10 playoff rankings before they get unveiled tomorrow officially. So we've seen so much chaos this season. I mean, ranked teams are losing left and right, blue bloods going down left and right. It's going to come down to who is left when the smoke clears, that war of attrition that I already kind of brought up. But I love it. I love seeing chaos, and we are absolutely, I think, going to have one, if not two, different teams in this year's college football playoff. So let me go ahead and share with you how I project they're going to look tomorrow evening. Let me get a quick swig of water. And this may make some of you upset. Comment. Let me know. So I'm going to start off. I got 1 through 10. I'm going to kind of alternate a little bit. I'm going to start off with number 1. Hands down, this is the easiest one to project. Georgia, the Bulldogs, will be the number 1 seed come tomorrow evening. And I think this, I'm going to start off by saying this. I should have said this before, but I think this committee, because of what we've seen, everybody suffering loss after loss, the competitiveness, the parity, I think at least for this first unveiling, they will do the right thing. They will reward those teams that are undefeated with the exclusion of one, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. I think they will reward those undefeated teams and also head-to-head matchups, because they matter. Those games need to matter, which I think this committee will do the right thing, at least for 1 week. I believe it, I want to believe it, and I hope they will. But this is how I believe they should be unveiled. I've got Georgia number 1. And number 10, this is the only undefeated that I think still they are going to be unsure of because of their schedule strength, or lack thereof, I should say. At number 10, I've got Wake Forest. And they're undefeated. They're leading a Power 5 conference, but the ACC has been down. So I've got the Deacons at number 10 in my initial playoff rankings. Number 2. Thank you, number 2. I've got the Oklahoma Sooners, who definitely look much better after making the quarterback change to Caleb Williams. They look really good, getting it done on offense, looking very, very impressive the last few weeks. I've got them number 2 as they're sitting there undefeated. Number 9, I've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now, I thought potentially of putting Wake ahead of them at number 9, but I think Notre Dame is in a good spot. I mean, their schedule has not been exactly what we thought it was going to be. A lot of their opponents have struggled, but they got a good victory over the weekend against North Carolina. They're sitting there with 1 loss, and that 1 loss being to a highly ranked Cincinnati team. So right now, Notre Dame's in a good spot at number 9, and they absolutely have every chance to crash the party as well. At number 3, aforementioned, I have the Cincinnati Bearcats, who are undefeated. As of this point, they absolutely will be in the playoffs, but I think if they continue to falter, not pass the eye test, other teams look even more impressive, they potentially could be leapfrogged, but in this initial rankings, they got to be in. So I got the Bearcats, number 3. At number 8, disappointing loss, but still a big-time brand. You know they want them there. I think they could still come back, rebound. They've got potential games with Penn State and their biggest rival, the Buckeyes of Ohio State. I think Michigan will drop, but they will be very highly ranked. I've got Michigan number 8 in my initial playoff rankings. Now, number 4, and I know this is going to potentially rub some of you, especially you SEC fans, the wrong way. But once again, I think this first time around, the committee does the right thing. I think you have to put at number 4 the Michigan State Spartans, which, yes, their strength of schedule, a little bit rough. They did have a pretty good road win at Miami when Miami was still ranked, but they're now, I think, 4-4 to 500 after their upset win over Pittsburgh. I mean, big-time game I didn't see coming, but I think you have to reward them. Big-time victory over Michigan, win a high-stakes game in definitely the first, if not the second best conference in the nation. You've got to have Michigan State at number 4. So those are the 4 teams that I would have in right now. Now let's go to number 7. Also might make some of you a little bit upset, or what, are you not watching the games? The old saying of, yeah, but have you not seen them play? I get it. If they would have looked more impressive against Penn State and covered, if they would have won by 19 points or more, maybe I'd have them ahead. But at number 7, I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes because they have that one loss against Oregon. So there's no way that I can put them ahead of Oregon. And I don't think the committee will either, but we'll have to wait and see tomorrow. So I got Ohio State at number 7. The first team out at number 5, I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Everything is still ahead of them. One loss, bad loss at Texas A&M. They were, I believe, an 18-point favorite as well. Lost 41 to 38. But they have every opportunity. They went out. They get to the SEC championship game. If you beat Georgia, you're absolutely going to get in. So Roll Tide fans, don't get upset. Don't cry. Don't call me a blasphemer. It's just the truth. You don't deserve to be in the top 4 yet, but you definitely will have the opportunity. And we've seen teams are falling left and right. So you take care of business, you're going to find yourselves in. So I got Bama at number 5, the first team out as of now. And my number 6 team, the second team out, is the Oregon Ducks. Yes, they also have a loss at Stanford. Not a great loss, but I can't put them behind Ohio State because they went to Columbus at the shoe and beat the Buckeyes straight up. And I think the committee will reward them for that as well. So that's my top 10. What I project the initial college football playoff rankings are going to be. Let me know what you think. And we'll see how it plays out tomorrow, and I'll share those official playoff rankings with you during the midweek show on Wednesday. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now let me, coming up on deck is everyone's favorite segment. We'll look to see how everything came out for Week 9 Pick'em segment. When this week I still matched up with my former co-host, Charlie, Missouri fan number 1, the true Adonis of a man, and my brother also took us on. He was able to move on to the next round of the guest picker tournament. But before we get to the Pick'em recap, I'm going to give you a little bit of analysis and insight to what happened or what I saw from our beloved black and gold squads on the field on Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and start with Iowa this week. Boy, oh boy, that was not good. I mean, episodes past, I've referenced one of my favorite movies, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This performance by Iowa at rival Wisconsin was just the bad, and the ugly. I mean, it was not any fun, tough to digest. Hopefully, Hawkeye fans, you had plenty of Tums or Prilosec on hand. And for some of you, hopefully you had refills of Xanax and Valium at the ready. It was a tough game to watch. That is Iowa's second straight loss. After being number 2 in the nation, they are now ranked number 19. Absolutely were exposed against Purdue, and the Wisconsin game absolutely kind of cemented what their deficiencies are. 27-7 was the final score. Overall, yes, their offense is the biggest reason what is happening in Iowa City. A lot of Spencer Petras haters But let me tell you this. Yes, he's not a great quarterback. Yes, they don't have dynamic playmakers on the perimeter, but they have dudes who have shown they can make some chunk plays. They can move the chains. But first and foremost, the biggest problem with Iowa, and I want to hear from Iowa fans, those of you who are educated, most of us are, the biggest problem is the offensive line. And I knew they were young. I said they were. But I definitely thought that 8 weeks into the season, 8 games into the season, they would be better than this. The offensive line is absolutely horrible. It is abysmal for Iowa. Here we have 4 games left, and they're all winnable games. None of them, I think Iowa will be favored in every single one, but none of them are guaranteed wins, but none of them are also guaranteed losses. I definitely think they will lose one more game, and I'll get to that later this week during the preview show, because of how bad this offensive line is. They gave up 6 sacks and 10 tackles for loss against Iowa. I mean, they couldn't protect or block anybody. And to also prove that they are the weakest link is Iowa rushed for less than a yard per rushing attempt. It came out to be 0.8 yards per rush. They cannot get any ground game going because of the line can't open any holes. Spencer Petras does not have adequate time to go through his progressions. He is not mobile. He is not fleet of foot. It is a recipe for disaster. The offensive line, they are the ones most to blame for the last 2 weeks and this debacle in Madison. And they lost the Heartland Trophy. Iowa had it for 1 year. Now Wisconsin has won 8 out of the last 10 against us. They are, as Pedro Martinez said about his Red Sox, referencing the Yankees, Wisconsin is our daddies. And they are. I can't talk you-know-what about them. I can talk crap. Not the other thing that rhymes with spit. I don't want to say this. This is the PG-13 show. But they continue to out-scheme Iowa and out-execute us. Iowa turned the ball over 3 times at the worst spots, all within their own red zone. The defense did what they could. They were just put in bad spots time and time again. Basically, those 3 turnovers well within the Iowa red zone really only led to 10 points. So the defense did what they could. Overall, it really was probably more of a 17-7 type game. Defense did what they did what they could, but it came down to the offense, turning the ball over. We had a muffed punt. We had a strip sack because of that lack of offensive line protecting Spencer Petras on a dropback. And we had a fumble, a bad handoff to Ivory Kelly-Martin. Was not Spencer Petras' problem. It was definitely a botched transition by the running back at the Iowa 3-yard line. So yeah, bad position, awful position for the Iowa defense. So they did what they could do, but it is the offensive line. I mean, this is what is going to absolutely continue to hamper us the rest of the season. I definitely think they will lose one more game. And the second worst deficient area for them is the defensive line. They're big-time young. They are the no-name defensive line, and they're still doing a good job winning the point of attack. They are not losing gap control. They are being disciplined. They're doing that part of it right. And they only allowed 166 yards rushing for Wisconsin. I mean, that was it. I mean, that's great when you're going up against a vaunted Wisconsin rushing team, which they usually have. So you give up 166 yards, you're probably going to win that game. Just not on that day. The thing is, the D-line of Iowa continues to not produce any sort of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Graham Mertz looked like an All-American, even though he is absolutely not. The Iowa defense recorded 0 sacks and only 1 tackle for a loss. The D-line has to get pressure on quarterbacks, or an average quarterback or better is going to pick you apart. So those are the 2 biggest reasons why Iowa is struggling. Hopefully they can turn the corner, but I think this late in the season, that's going to be a tall order. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I did project them to go 8-4 preseason, so they lose one more and go 9-3. Hey, To me, that's a better season. But a season that could have definitely resulted in more, I have to wait and see. And they are not mathematically eliminated from the Big Ten West. They're not, but they're going to need help. They've got to win out themselves, and they need Wisconsin to lose a game. And their only two chances, I think, for Wisconsin to trip up would be this coming week at Rutgers and the last week of the season when they go to Minnesota. So I think too much to ask. We'll see. We'll see what Iowa can do. But disappointing, to say it the best way possible. Disappointing. And now Missouri, big time victory, big time win. They recorded it. It was 37-28 over Vanderbilt in Nashville. And this is a big victory because Missouri needed it. I mean, this was a really good game to watch. These were two teams that battled their asses off because they knew they could beat the other. And these are probably the two worst teams in the SEC East. South Carolina's probably also in there. But it was an entertaining game to watch. Wow, I tell you, they got it done. But Tyler Beatty had himself a day. 254 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns, and overall had 294 all-purpose yards. He continues to be Missouri's do-everything offense. So without him, they may not win this game. They probably don't. But also, other things just happened to go Missouri's way. That included a Hail Mary touchdown at the end of the first down. So you take away that, it's 30-28. And Tyler Beatty's heroics, his individual performance. I mean, they find themselves potentially with a loss. And also Harrison Mevis, as I stated, was 3 for 3 on field goals. So in a way, Missouri was not lucky to win this game, but it very easily could have been a loss for Missouri. And also, they got to clean this up. They were penalized 9 times for 100 yards. I mean, that has got to be cleaned up. So once again, maybe in a roundabout way, Missouri kind of lucky to escape with a victory. I don't want to say escape, but they were lucky to maybe to record the victory when, man, it was still a real toss-up game via stats. And they needed that one. They're now 4-4. They've got to win 2 more games to get to bowl eligibility. This week they go to Georgia. I'll talk about that game more later in the week. Tall task, big-time order for that. But we'll see what they can do. We'll see. They gave up 200. They gave up 258 yards rushing. So better, but still, you've got to clean that up. I mean, their rush defense, they still statistically are the worst rushing defense in Division I football, but they're no longer the worst overall defense. They've got out of the cellar. So well done, Missouri. Keep it up. We'll see what you can do. Get to that coveted 6th win. Extra practices in a bowl game. We'll see. All right. So that's how it played out with our black and golds. Like I said, mixed results during Week 9 rivalry week. Good for Mizzou, bad for Iowa. But, well, it's a new day. It's a new week. We'll see what happens. All right. Now let's revisit how it went down for our Week 9 pick'em. Here is the results. And during the week, Anthony, my brother, our guest picker, went 9-6. He moves on in the guest picker tournament. Charlie went 9-6 for 60%. And this week, your boy, after a 2-week hiatus, is back on the top of the mountain, the people's champ. I went 11-4 for 73%. I won the week, but still, overall, our season standings, the competition going on between Charlie and myself. Charlie is at 85-50. I'm 81-54. I'm 4 games behind him. Right now, he's at 63%. I'm right at 60% correct. We set a goal for 70% or better at the end of the regular season. We both can still get there, but we'll see how it plays out. And this week's round of the guest picker tournament, it continues. This week, we have the 4 versus 5 seed. The 4 seed, my kids, Eliana and Connor, will be taking on my boy Caleb in a match of Thunderdome to see who comes out as guest picker champ and moves on in the guest picker tournament. So that's how it went down for picks. And as usual, the last thing I'm going to share with you, I'm going to recap the potential trap. It's a trap. The trap games I shared with you for week 9. Had a good week. I always usually give you 4. And let's revisit the trap games that I shared with you during the week 9 preview show. Number 22, Iowa State traveled to West Virginia off that big win against Oklahoma State. And they host Texas this week. Iowa State. Direct hit. I told you to look out. I got that one right. Iowa State loses 38-31 in Morgantown at West Virginia. Number 12, Kentucky, on an off week, went to Mississippi State. I told them to beware. They host this week their rival, Tennessee. Another direct hit. They lost in Starkville 31-17. Third, Washington State. After the coaching change, a bunch of upheaval, how would they respond? They traveled to Arizona State. I put Arizona State on alert because they host Pac-12 South rival USC this week. Another direct hit. Arizona State lost at home 34-21. And the last one I pointed out to you was Purdue at Nebraska. Nebraska was looking much better. They were at home, and they host number 5 Ohio State this week. Put them on alert. Don't be looking ahead. Purdue goes to Lincoln and wins 28-23. So I was 4 for 4. Perfect this week on my potential trap games. So that's it. That's today's review episode. Once again, thank you for your time, your attention, your support. Love you. Love all of you. Let's continue to get the word out there. Like, share, subscribe. Black and Gold family, thank you for all that you do. College football fans, rejoice. Continue to enjoy everything this season is giving us. And I'll see you all Wednesday during the midweek show. Until then, thank you for being here with me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And I'll see you Wednesday. Bye-bye.